a certain shot or I'm losing, and I start making all these adjustments when maybe I didn't need to. Maybe it was there. The patterns are working. I just have to execute better, or just keeping them focused. And pickleball is such a sport of momentum. So teaching these kids sometimes how to break out of some slumps in the middle of a game, and then how do we capitalize when someone is heating up. I could tell when my partner gets fired up or it's dialed in, hits a couple nice shots, poaches, hits a winner. I got to feed him more balls right now. I don't necessarily need to do anything. I need to try to get him the ball because he's dialed in. So they learn that over time, how to start recognizing that and take advantage of that. And that's one of those little intangible things that we're looking for with a lot of these kids is like, who has that it factor? Because you could take that and then put in the work and they could be superstars. A lot of their kids might not have it, then we'll try to teach it to them. As long as they have the work ethic, they can still pull it off. But every kid's different, so it'll be fun to work with them and see what we can do.
So as the touring pro for the APP, as a more detailed level, you'll be going to these players to the events, really being there, even helping them navigate mid-court or mid-game adversity.
That's the plan.
That's
the plan. I mean, we'll train at the fort, work with them and everything, but then when they go to tournaments, I mean, the goal is to try to have a coach. I'd like to go to as many as I can and be there with them. If that means helping schedule their stuff and make sure that they just can focus on the tournament, that's one thing, but I'd like to be courtside with them and actually coaching them, especially if it's a big match. If they don't make it in a semis or a final, you bet I'm going to be their biggest cheerleader, because at the end of the day, it's all for these kids to be the best they can be, right? So on court, coaching them, trying to keep them focused, try to win some championships.
Now, outside of that, you said that you're trying to build human beings, good human beings.
That's probably the most important part of it.
Ken has now, the future half, told us that he's pulled you in as a key point in the player development and a touring pro. So what, for now athletes coming in the player development sector, what is your role going to be for the APP Tour as a whole?
So I really just want to help develop some of these kids and obviously teach them pickleball, but more teach them how to become professional athletes. So a lot of these kids are just getting in this pickleball space. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of opportunity, a lot of potential. So it's just trying to find a way is how can we keep them focused and get them to be the best that they can be. And I think Ken thought I would be a perfect fit for that with some of these kids with my experience in pickleball.
So to brief people that are actually listening while I say it, Kyle Yates is a former #1 men's pickleball player and also is in the Hall of Fame for pickleball. So congratulations on that.
Thanks.
As of recently, that was a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes.
But with that being said, knowing the failures and successes that you've had, right? What do you think the biggest thing right now that the younger generation coming through is actually struggling with? Is it more the mental side of the game, or is it skill development? Where do they even start when they come and see you?
I think a lot of it is just overcoming a lot of the self-doubt, because I mean, there's so much competition now, and it seems like it's a free-for-all, but also there's plenty of barriers to entry. I mean, there's already a lot of really good pros. There's a lot of ex-professional tennis players coming in. So for a lot of these kids, is making sure they're on the right path and they have the right mindset and know that it's going to be a lot of work, but we're going to show you the path to get to where you want to go, and we're going to help you along the way. And a lot of it is not just building professional athletes, but just human beings, right? You learn a lot through sports. So a lot of these kids, it's just good learning experiences, life experiences. So whether or not they end up winning the US Open someday, the fact that they're willing to work for it, and it's going to pay off down the road regardless, either in pickleball or just in life in general.
So it's so funny you say that, because I reflect back, and you probably do the same thing being in sports. You acquire your will to overcome adversity from playing sports, because with you out even knowing, you're losing, you're quote unquote failing all the time, and you're like, you have to step back out there next game, wash off the last one, and play again, right?
Well, it's dealing with the loss and how to deal with adversity, and when things aren't going your way, how do you react and how do you adapt? And really, you lose a lot. Sports. I mean, you lose a lot. You think about it, if you have a tournament and there's 50 teams, one person's going to win the tournament. So there's 49 losers and one winner. So you have to learn with losing. What do we learn from this? How do we get better next time? You lose again. What do we need to get better? So it's this lose, but hopefully you're losing and just getting better every day. And that's the process that I think we want to try to instill with some of these kids is regardless what the results are today, we're still going to hit the courts tomorrow and we're going to train, we're going to try to get better. And you just trust that process, and if they end up winning, well, that's what makes winning a championship feel so much better. Is all the loses or all the losing that it takes to get there, you take all that loss and then you finally win, and it makes it feel so much better.
Winning doesn't taste sweet if you didn't put in the work to get there, right?
And most people have no idea how much work it took to get there. Just see you on the court playing well, and they're so talented. That player's so good. They haven't seen like the years and the hours and hours and hours of training, and then all like the heartbreak moments, all those losses. I remember most of my losses more vividly than my wins. Michael Jordan said he missed more game-winning shots than he made. But again, you learn from it. You just try to get better every time.
How do you, I have a specific question here, it just popped into my brain. How do you, that period of you're not peaking, because we just talked about this with Ken actually briefly. He talked about setting up players for peaking. And I loved this frame because I've been navigating it myself playing pickleball on, I'm 70% today, right? I am not going to play where I'm in a peak session, right? Mm-hmm. How are you possibly organizing players to say, how do I still find a way to win even though I'm working with 70% or even though I'm working with 60% today?
There's a really good book on that called Winning Ugly. This book, it
I'm
talks
gonna
a
have
lot
to go
about
read
that.
that.
It's a Brad Gilbert, maybe. A really good book about that. But yeah, it's learning how can we still play even if we're not necessarily playing our best, finding different ways to win. And that's another thing I think a lot of these kids need to learn is you're not going to play your best every time.
You may have a bum sleep, right? Your sleep might suck.
There's a lot of variables, but then how do we keep our head right? Things
Exactly.
aren't going well. Kids are so quick to panic or change course, and sometimes just having a coach there, someone there to reassure them helps. That would have helped me a ton back a lot of my tournaments where I felt like I'm missing a certain shot or I'm losing, and I start making all these adjustments when maybe I didn't need to. Maybe it was there. The patterns are working. I just have to execute better, or just keeping them focused. And pickleball is such a sport of momentum.
Yeah.
So teaching these kids sometimes how to break out of some slumps in the middle of a game, and then how do we capitalize when someone is heating up. Like I could tell when my partner gets fired up or it's dialed in, hits a couple of nice shots, hits a winner. I got to feed him more balls right now. I don't necessarily need to do anything. I need to try to get him the ball because he's dialed in. So they learn that over time, how to start recognizing that and take advantage of that. And that's one of those little intangible things that we're looking for with a lot of these kids is like who has that it factor. Because you could take that and then put in the work and they could be superstars. A lot of their kids might not have it, and then we'll try to teach it to them. As long as they have the work ethic, they can still pull it off, but every kid's different. So it'll be fun to work with them and see what we can do.
So as the touring pro for the APP, as a more detailed level, you'll be going to these players to the events, really being there, even helping them navigate mid-court or mid-game adversity.
That's the plan.
Before,
That's the plan. I mean, we'll train at the fort, work with them and everything. But then when they go to tournaments, I mean, the goal is to try to have a coach. I'd like to go to as many as I can and be there with them. If that means helping schedule their stuff and make sure that they just can focus on the tournament, that's one thing. But I'd like to be courtside with them and actually coaching them, especially if it's a big match.
Yeah.
If they don't make it in a semis or final, you bet I'm going to be their biggest cheerleader because at the end of the day, it's all for these kids to be the best they can be, right? So on court, coaching them, trying to keep them focused, try to win some championships.
Now, outside of that, you said that you're trying to build human beings, good human beings.
That's probably the most important part of it.
So how, define that for me a little bit. The only reason I ask that is because I feel like we always talk about it, but it's like, what do you do to actually show these kids, hey, here's how you take this to general life?
It usually gets lost in translation.
Yeah, exactly.
Just we say a lot, pickleball is life, right? Yeah. But it really is. When you deal with so many adversity, there's so much adversity that you have to learn how to deal with it. So what we're trying to do with some of these kids is, regardless how the match goes, you're just going to still hold yourself to a high regard, right? You're just still going to have yourself, respect for your opponents. I feel like nowadays kids are so much more focused on just winning that sometimes there's attitudes or things that's not really the professionals that we want to see. We want to make sure that they're going to represent themselves and the fort in a good way. And I think that'll take them further in life than winning a few championships and potentially making some enemies. I think how you represent yourself is more important than whether or not you win or lose. I've actually won matches and lost fans, and I've lost matches but gained thousands of fans. It's just how you represent yourself. So teaching these kids that we're going to work hard, we're going to compete, but at the end of the day, if someone just plays better than you, we're going to show some respect, we're going to congratulate them, and we're going to get back to work. And that's life. You're going to lose plenty. Some things are going to be in your control, some are not going to be in your control. Then how do these kids deal with it? I think we got a pretty good group of kids already that seem to have their heads on their shoulders, so credit to their parents probably. But we want to take that to the next level.
There's an awesome group of talent out there. I mean, even thinking about, so I played my first tournament, to give you a brief story, in 2-5-3-0 in Las Vegas in 2020,
Yikes.
in 2022.
2-5? They have divisions for 2-5?
It technically was like a 2-5-3-0, but yes, they do. I don't want to brag about it, but either way, but if you track my duper, it looks like a great come-up story. If I'm being honest with you. So
Started from the absolute bottom. Now we're here.
literally couldn't have been any worse. The only reason I'm telling you that is because even looking at the younger kids in that tournament playing out in Las Vegas, where that was on the PPA tour, right? Kind of almost integrating into the juniors or the younger group of kids on both sides. Seeing what I'm seeing now in comparison to 2022 is like night and day with the kids and the development and the skill sets and where the game is actually going. So that's awesome with it. Where I'm leading to beyond that is I can see personally that this hits home for you, right? You're doing this because you want to give back in some way. From a personal note, was there a person in your life that like did that for you that made you want to do that? Or was it like, here's it I wish I had as an athlete and I don't want to give that back?
Yeah, probably the second.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes, second.
Yeah. Do you find that it is just super fulfilling giving back in some manner and like teaching knowledge that you've grown and giving it to the next generation?
I feel like I'm making more of an impact.
Yeah.
It's when you're trying to do something for somebody else.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, it's a job, right? But I don't need it. I mean, I'd be doing plenty of other things. I think it'd be fun to work with a lot of the kids. It's seeing their journeys, because I've known a lot of these kids for years now. Because I've been playing for 3 or 4 years. Well, I've been playing for 10, so I knew when they first started. And I could rattle off a few of the names of these kids that I've known since they were 10, 11 years old. That are now 19, 20, playing professionally. So just kind of seeing them grow up, it's wild. But I also feel like when I was that age, pickleball was still kind of looked down on, and so it was really hard for me to kind of with other people my age, and I'm playing against a bunch of people that are way older than me that really probably don't even want me playing. And I said because I'm 21, 22 years old, and everyone else is 30, 45, old. Oh, this young kid, I wish he wasn't. I think it's a cool opportunity for all these kids. It's a great just learning experience. They're making a lot of cool friends. I just think it's good for them in general. So when I was 17, I wish all my friends played pickleball too. Instead, I'm playing.
I was going to say, you were in a completely different stage of pickleball.
Playing with a bunch of adults. I think these kids, I don't know if they fully appreciate or recognize how fortunate they are to be in that position. Yeah. I want to make sure, they take advantage of it, and then they're they appreciate it, are aware of privilege. Professional pickleball as a career. Come on.
Listen, I think any of us athletes who had to let go of a career. So for me, it was hockey in college. Right after I graduated, I was like, what else? We reflect back and we're like, this sport 10 years ago kind of like fell in our lap to develop and playing as a professional sport brand new. So it's not that I'm still not trying to play at the highest level. Yeah. However, you're right. It's like absolutely a privilege right now to like have the sport growing like it did this time in your life.
And I'm not trying to live vicariously through any of the kids. I mean, I'm going to go out there and whoop all of them right now. But I'm playing so long, like I don't necessarily care to compete as much, but it's more fun now watching some of these other kids because I don't really feel like putting in the work anymore. I feel like I'm getting old. I don't really want to go out there to go.
30 yet? What do you?
No, but I don't have the motivation to go out there and drill all day, every day, and play a ton. Yeah. But it'd be fun to help some of these guys and see what they're capable of. Yeah. And so, like, if I can train, these kids and they end up going and winning the U.S. Open, I'm gonna be stoked for them. I already have had friends that I've done that for, I've given lessons to, and they end up winning a big tournament. Yeah. I'm for them than I ever am for myself in a tournament. It's just different.
So you just personally feel like your next chapter has come and you're ready to kind of
we'll see.
The coaching stuff. We'll see.
I think it'll be a fun venture. I don't want to say I'm turning a page on anything, but I think adding to it is fun. I think this would be cool. I think it'd be fun to work with the guys. I want to see what they're capable of, and if I can help them kind of get better.
I love that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I do. I think Ken, the team, did a good thing bringing you on.
I think Ken and I are kind of on the same page with everything, and that's one of the things I respect about Ken is he really is just trying to help people and give them that opportunity. Yeah. He's done a lot of work, but none of it comes on selfish perspective.
Absolutely.
None of it is like, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing. Everything is all for somebody else, always.
To give you an example of that, we were recording part of our episode with him, and the thing he said was like, did I do okay? Like, did I give you what you needed to? Like, I'm like, Ken, you did a great job. Like, we're asking the questions for you. Like, you don't have to do anything for us, right? Sure. So it's just like that wholeheartedness in him, honestly. Mm-hmm.
It's genuine. A lot of people fake it.
Absolutely.
He's not faking it.
Absolutely.
So he's one of the big reasons why I'm here. He might be the number one reason why I'm here, but also I already know a lot of these guys, some of the kids, and a lot of good kids. So I think it'd be fun working with them.
Yeah. I'm staking them. And
a little bit. But it'll be just a pleasure working with them, hanging out with them, and watching them grow up.
I have a closing question for you, and then I'll let you go and get back to it.
Sure.
This is a little bit of a challenging question, but what is your greatest fear moving forward? And I ask you that because a lot of what we discuss in the podcast is overcoming failures and fears. And usually in every new chapter, we find that like there's something that like you have to overcome. You could be in a chapter where like completed a lot, which you have completed a lot, and this is kind of the chapter for you to say, I'm just giving back. But do you have any fears moving forward, moving into this new role?
My number one fear my whole life has actually always been failure.
Okay.
Which makes me try more things. Mike actually said something. He's like, when I'm afraid of something, it makes me want to do it more. It makes me want to overcome that fear. And it's not necessarily why I play pickleball, but also I don't think being afraid of not performing well shouldn't stop you from getting out and playing. I had too much pressure on myself for a lot of my career, and I realized that usually the tournaments I did really well on, I was just in a better mindset. I was just in a better space, just mentally, emotionally, and then I played better and I actually enjoyed playing. So we want to make sure that with these kids, you're gonna lose a lot, and most of it's gonna be to me in practice. I'm gonna be whooping you guys, and the life, and not take it too seriously. Enjoy that process, which I probably should have done more throughout my career. But yeah, just don't the fear of losing or failing stop you from at least trying. And if first you don't succeed, you try again.
Absolutely. It's either, we always talk about, you have one or two choices. It's either you choose to overcome the fear or you choose to let the fear overcome you, right? And it's like, which road are you going to take?
Sure.
And I
feel like I was more scared of the business ventures than the on-court stuff.
Okay.
Because on-court is where I felt more myself, where I could just express myself and I can kind of lost in just the competition, just the sport.
Yeah.
Playing sport like pickleball, you can't be in it 95% mentally.
Yeah.
You get 100% in and you're not going to win.
Absolutely.
So all your focus goes to just what you're doing in that moment. You're like in the present. And so I think that's a big thing we want to try to get with a lot of these kids is just be present in the moment. Stop thinking of all these other things going on. And I feel like I wish I had a coach to help me stay there a little bit longer and not get distracted by things, whether it's off court, whether it's a couple net tippers or a bad call, just any little thing like that is just distracts you from the goal, right?
Do you feel like that's even more critical in pickleball because the games are so short?
Well, it shows more.
Yeah.
A lapse of concentration, all of a sudden you lose 3, 4, 5 points in a row.
Exactly.
And so it's obvious. You can see it, and that's why people call timeouts to kind of regroup.
Yeah.
I think I was more afraid of the business ventures failing because it's out of my element. It's something totally new. Where in sports I felt more comfortable because that's what I've been doing my whole life. But then all of a sudden, now having to manage a pickleball facility, or now I've got other people relying on me, where in pickleball it was always, myself or my partner. There's not employees counting on their paycheck, things like that. So it's a different kind of pressure. But I'm just excited for the opportunity because then I'm going to grow as a person, getting out of my comfort zone, trying to get better at different things.
Yeah, well, we're going to tease that. We're going to tease Kyle Yates, the Beyond Pickleball entrepreneur. That's what we're going to do. But I'll let you go. Either way, hey.